Dear Dhamma friends, so we welcome all of you to Kalalgoda English Medium Retreat. Sorry I am late little. So this is the time for question and answer session. So I will cordially invite to present with the written questions.
Venerable Bhante, we have 5 questions. 3 on meditation and the balance on Dhamma.
Yes.
Nissarana, Venerable Swami Mahansa, walking meditation. Selected a path and stood at the corner. Started walking, thinking about the soul. When the soles were touching on the ground, felt the sand and it was cold. While walking, I noticed that when sand and the soles touched together, it made a sound. When there is a lot of sand, the sound is a bit noisy. But when there is less sand, also less. While walking for 15 to 30 minutes, I felt very sleepy, but continued to walk. Sometimes had to stop for a while to walk. Please advise me, Bhante, how to overcome this.
Overcome
this, the sleepiness.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Shall I read that also?
We'll discuss first this. Yeah. So it's beautifully written, souls and so sometimes we might misunderstand it's souls. We are talking about soulless actually, non-self, but we are now talking about souls. Here actually the meaning is related to the foot. So as we do walking meditation, so our left foot is touching the ground and so the sole is touching the ground. So we are trying to be aware of the sensations. So basically one mistake I felt, which I like to mention here, is that try to keep your attention to the inside, not to the outside. Basically, for example, say when you are explaining that you, because of your touch, that there were sand throwing outside or sand throwing this side, that side, so that your attention has drawn to the outside. So rather than that, try to take your attention to the inside, so that it doesn't matter either the sand thrown to either side. But what we are more concerned is related to the inside the skin, what has happened. So basically into our side. So when you are touching some rough surface, so you may feel roughness. When you are touching smooth surface, you may feel smoothness. If it is dry, you may feel dryness. If it is wet, then you may feel wetness. If it is hot, you may feel the heat. So likewise, so try to take your attention to inside and accordingly define your question as well. So, but again, it is natural sometimes to feel sleepy, because this is a very ordinary experience and it is not that much stimulating your mind. And again, as you know, meditation is as such, so we are trying to keep our attention to a very equanimous object. It is not like you are watching a movie or very kind of adventurous something which keep you very much drawn to it, very much attracted to it. But this one, it's an extremely boring object, so you need fair amount of mindfulness, fair amount of effort to keep your attention continuously on this object. So all the meditation objects are like this. So it's very natural that the beginners feel sleepy, even not only in the walking meditation, even in the sitting meditation. So just continue your meditation. It's our effort to maintain this kind of diligence even when the feeling become really bored, really monotonous like. So just continue. And on the other hand, if you feel boredom, It's a kind of a outcome of the meditation. You can feel that you are progressing, because typically the sensual desire is the one continuously distracting our mind to various other objects. But when you are keeping our attention to some boring object, kind of a neutral object, equanimous object, so ultimate result is kind of a boredom. But slowly you can overcome this boredom, because the mind itself will understand some kind of a serenity in this process, some kind of friction-free, frictionless nature in this process. So till you feel that, you need to, through the effort, you need to again and again take your attention back to this neutral object. And if you feel sleepy, so on the other side, it is an indication that you are able to overcome this sensual desire. So when sensual desire is there, you can't feel sleepy. Again, if there is the other side, if there is aversion available in the mind, still you can't feel sleepy. Again, if there are certain kinds of doubts going on or kind of restlessness going on, then you can't feel sleepy. So the sleepiness indicates that you are able to overcome these other hindrances. So, but now you have to handle this Srotantopa. You have to handle this sleepiness slowly. Don't sort of introduce kind of a rough object in order to overcome this sleepiness. Rather, again and again continue with the same way. It's natural to feel sleepy when your mind gets concentrated, but through experience, through practice only, you are able to overcome this. So rather than making you sort of trying to walk on the back side into the other direction, or that kind of a sort of absurd thing, don't introduce such thing, just continue the same way. So understand that you are able to overcome 4 hindrances now, but you are still has to handle this Srotantopa. Yes.
Sitting meditation. Once I sit and started to observe my breath, I realized it is very smooth and very short, both inhale and exhale. When I watch my breath for 5 to 10 minutes, the time I feel I have fallen asleep. This has happened now for a little time. How much I try not to get into that level, with the thoughts that are coming to my mind, I fall asleep. I get so many thoughts which are not connected to anyone. They come and go. I always make sure to look at them and not to entangle with them. But sometimes, without noticing, I tend to go away. But in a moment I realize and come back. Today I was sitting for more than 1 hour, looking at my thoughts, and very less time I was able to look at the inhale and exhale. While I was waiting, I got a very bright light, white. I looked at that too, and it too disappeared. Later, it happens with the thoughts. I am getting into my mind. Please advise me to go forward. Thero.
Yeah, this basically, it's a good indication, good improvement is also there. That's why you are able to get this concentration light. And but is it still too early to look at it? So just continue preparing your courses, because this light is an outcome. Light is a result of your meditation, result of your concentration. But if you are, prematurely, if you are looking at it, it will disappear. So that's a kind of a rule that we need to remember. So till it becomes very much stabilized, fairly strong and fairly bright, we better wait and continue with the breath. So the breath meditation, Anapanasati, is the place that we are creating courses or preparing courses to get this outcome. So it is our duty is to be with the breath and continue to watch the breath. So ultimately the outcome, this sign, this bright light, also come very much coincident with the breath, merge with the breath, and then only you are in a better position to look at it. So just continue with the breath, without looking at the sign. And on the other hand, if it is possible, don't look at the mind again. I mean, try to continue with the breath, because sometimes if we start to look at the mind without much of a established mindfulness, so the content of the thoughts will ultimately absorb ourselves to the story, because the mind is really delusive, and kind of rather than typical pain or kind of bodily sensations, the content of the mind is really attractive, really, tempting. So at the beginning we may have fair amount of mindfulness to watch it, but if we are still not familiar with this process, so in between or in the middle of the process you get carried away with the thoughts. So continue with Anapanasati rather than watching the mind. So just neglect the thoughts by being with the breath. So if you are more and more with the breath, so it doesn't matter, the thoughts may appear, then and there you are trying to keep your attention more with the breath. So understand that at the beginning our refuge is breath. So breath becomes the main object, the Mula Kamatahana, main object. So that would be the kind of a rescue or kind of a refuge. So more and more you stay with it, you are able to develop your mindfulness, develop your concentration, and then at a later stage you will have fair amount of concentration, fair amount of mindfulness. At that time you are able to watch the breath, watch the mind as well. Say for example in Anapanasati Sutta, where Buddha actually advises us, telling that don't look at the mind if you don't have fair amount of mindfulness. Because in Satipatthana, Buddha is mentioning Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So Kayanupassana and Vedananupassana is easy access for us to introduce mindfulness. So if we immediately look at the mind, ultimately we get caught up with the content and we may be thinking, proliferating. So therefore don't go in to look at the mind at this moment. Later you would be in a better position to look at it. So still be with the breath. So being with the breath will solve your both problems. One problem is that disappearing of that light. So it will avoid by looking at the breath, so that you are preparing more causes or strengthening the causes. On the other hand, if you are watching the breath, it will give the solution to the ongoing proliferation, ongoing thinking, because Anapanasati is a very good solution to minimize thinking, or very much this inner chatter or some kind of distractive thinking. So Anapanasati is one of the best solutions. So just continue with Anapanasati and it will solve both these problems. So anyway, if this yogi likes to discuss verbally, that's also welcome. So if you like to discuss, please feel free to come forward and discuss. Otherwise, we will go into the next question. Yeah.
Venerable Bhante, after a retreat, I continue being very mindful at home. One day, my eye consciousness, vision changed. Everywhere I looked was like the negative of a photograph, in a light shade of blue. My mind was filled with happiness. I walked to the next room and it was the same effort. After a time, all the colors returned. This happened on the following 2 days as well, but not so strongly. Is this what is referred to as the seeing the canvas behind the painting? Please comment.
Still not the canvas. You need to further practice in order to see the canvas. So anyway, this is a good sign that some changes are happening in your sort of perception. So basically we are living in a thinking that what we see is the real thing. So what we see is Buddha says kind of a delusion, kind of a mirage. So that is where the perception deludes us. So the perception, so when we see something, we immediately think it is there, it is available there. So that's a kind of a perception we have. But Buddha says, don't immediately believe it. So continue to develop mindfulness, and it may be true to some extent. To the conventional level, it may be true. But in the ultimate sense, or in a deeper sense, so we need to see whether is it a kind of a mind-made thing, or is there any kind of perversions that we have going through, or is there any additions or divisions or subtractions or multiplication that we did internally, fabrications which we did. So all these things are internally we are creating. So meditation helps us to avoid this fabrication. So what we see, we are trying to keep at that level. Seeing is just seeing, hearing is just hearing. But we give values to what we have seen. We give values to what we hear, rather than just accepting the content as it is, or accepting the sight or sound as it is. So anyway, I mean, this is a long path. So if you start to feel that typically what in our eyes we are seeing something, and through meditation sometimes it appears like blurred. It can appear like kind of bubbles, or kind of splittered or scattered, or sometimes everywhere arising and passing away, kind of what you call dissolution kind of thing. So everywhere you see everything's dissolved, something like that. So these things can happen. It does not mean that every meditator will experience all these things, but certain meditators can experience these things. If you experience it, don't make it a trouble. And if you don't experience it, don't ask for that. So it doesn't matter. So, I mean, visually sometimes when you look at certain things, it appears like something different than you previously perceived. Doesn't matter. And it is not necessary to have that experience for everyone also. Because these insights, what you call as vipassana knowledges, or these experiences are not common to everyone, and it is not necessary to common to everyone either. And different people experience different stages in a different intensities. It is not necessary for everyone to have the same intensity on each and every vipassana knowledge. There is no such law as such. So accept as it is. Yeah.
Venerable Bhante, I read in a Dhamma book about sati and manasikara. However much I tried to understand, I just couldn't get it. Could you please explain in a simple way the sati and manasikara?
Yes, sati refers to the mindfulness. I mean, typically translated as mindfulness, where typically, if you consider our behavior of the mind, it likes to stay either in the past or in the future. Say, if you consider where is your mind in the typical day-to-day life, where it enjoys, where it lingers upon. So basically, either it's getting about the past incidents and it's just thinking, and again, if it projects into the future, either to the hopes or something going to happen in the future, and again, kind of a proliferation. So these are the two sides that our mind typically get involved. Mindfulness helps to come back to the present moment and see the present moment experience. I mean, just being in the present moment may not be enough, but being in the present moment, we may be experiencing some kind of a process, something ongoing, currently ongoing process. So that we can say fairly simply as mindfulness. So this observation also is sometimes at the beginning you might have some kind of involvement, you do some kind of you put some effort, but later on as mindfulness develops, so you come into a kind of a passive observation where you are not trying to make any judgments based on the observation, rather you in a passively, in a non-judgmental way, you are observing. So this mindfulness has different stages. So at the beginning we have just bare attention. So bare attention to the present moment. We are not doing anything. Say for example, you are just sitting. So while sitting, you can feel certain feelings available in your body. Certain sensations available in your body. For example, if your two hands are touching each other, then you may feel that one hand's weight to the other hand. This touching point has some little amount of heat. So if you can feel this heat, if you can feel this weight, feel this heaviness, then you are utterly in the present moment. Because if your mind stays in the past, or if it is going to the future, you can't observe this kind of very neutral, very subtle sensation. Again, say you are some kind of a little tingling sensation, or kind of a stiffness going on in the stomach, kind of movement available in the stomach. So these are little indications. If you are able to be mindful, then you are able to see it clearly. So immediately you can't do it. So slowly we are catching the momentum, and at the beginning you may try to stay there, but again mind goes to the past, again mind goes to the future. So again you bring it back to the present moment. Again couple of seconds it's available in the present moment, again it will shift to the past, again shift to the future, again you take it back to the present moment. So that's the only way. So this is how we are trying to introduce mindfulness. And again in walking also, when your foot is touching the ground, so we are trying to keep our attention there. So basically our body always stays in the present moment. Body is something physical, it can't manifest either in the past or in the future. But our mind also actually happens in the present moment, but its object, either it goes to the past or to the future. Now we are trying to maintain an object, it's a present moment object, kind of a present object, rather than in the past object or future object. So this way we are trying to develop mindfulness. But manasikara, sometimes translated as attention, has a little difference, where attention means that, say for example, I have say 10 objects on this table. Say I have spectacles, handkerchief, mic, this alarm clock. So the different objects are there. Now if my attention is drawn to this fan, so then I have selected that particular object. So that is the attention. There are say 101 things available, so I am directing my attention to one selected object, so that we call as attention, that we call as manasikara. So that is, again, it has some kind of inner traits, inner habits, this tendencies within ourselves. So among different objects, we are selecting one particular object. Our attention is drawn to one particular object, so there are certain things hidden as well in this process also. So anyway, attention has one meaning and mindfulness has another meaning. Therefore, sati and manasikara has some different meanings. But anyway, those are properties in the mind, so both are necessary. So for example, in Anapanasati meditation, so our attention is gone to the breath. So there are many objects available, and even the very distractive objects available in the outside. But now we are trying to maintain our attention on the breath. That is one thing. But maintaining that attention on breath is again developing mindfulness. So these are helping each other. Yes.
Most Venerable Bhante, my understanding is that our next birth will depend on the last thought of this birth. If this is true, can we say that the next birth will be according to the last mind consciousness? As an example, if we see a loved one, a son or daughter, at our deathbed, we definitely will have a secure feeling. If we die with this feeling, where will our next birth take place? Much credit to you for helping us to progress on the Dhamma path.
Good. So sometimes you may feel secure feeling, or sometimes a different feeling. If she or he start to crying, or you start to crying, and if you think about what's going to happen to your son or daughter, then you'll be in a kind of panic situation rather than feeling secure. So better ask them to don't come closer to you. So then you are on your own, you can handle yourself. You can just be mindful and you can handle what's going to happen in the future. If you can take the whole full control to your hand, we can be sure that things are happening according to what we have developed. So basically, it is true that the next birth may depend on the last consciousness, but the last consciousness depends on so many other factors, so many other causes. Say for example, what you have familiarized, what you have habituated. Say for example, your mind constantly thinking about someone. Say for long time, that's the only distractive or kind of a distraction, obsession kind of thing that your mind is continuously thinking. Suppose at the death moment, same object will appear. Because that's the habitual thing for the mind. Because mind depends on the habits. There is no one sort of forcing or imposing anything, but mind manifests, mind sort of activates, or mind going to different objects based on the internal habit patterns. So these habits are extremely crucial in our life. So if we have good habits, so it can help us. But on the other hand, if we have bad habits, it will cause in the other way. So this last moment, therefore, is conditioned with so many factors. One thing is karma. So what we have done within our life, so it has a major impact on the last death, the last moment or the last consciousness. And again the habit patterns. So it's sometimes called achinna karma. So different categories of karma is mentioned as the different actions are mentioned. So among these actions, which one comes as the final moment, which would be the most predominant action, depends. So suppose you have, say, kind of a strong action have done. For example, say on the negative side, say someone has killed mother, someone has killed father, or something like that, some heinous karma has done. So that becomes the last death conscious object. So then ultimately you will be in trouble. On the other hand, suppose there is no such thing, but on the other hand, there's a kind of a habituated pattern of some action. Say you are every day you are meditating, or every day you are paying respect to Buddha, or you are used to some certain kind of activity that you are habitually doing it. Your mind is more familiar with it. Then there's a high possibility, high probability that you are getting that object, same thing, the mind would do at the death moment as well. And on the other hand, if there is no such thing, even the future also, the next birth also can happen. In the sense, I mean, the some signs related to the next birth also can happen. So likewise, different information is given. So anyway, you can't say exactly what will happen. So you can only say, okay, only as an assurance. That's why Buddha says only a Sotapanna can assure that he is safe. So try to become a Sotapanna. So that's the best advice we can say. So just continue your practice and continue to be with the Dhamma. And because our life is extremely uncertain, so you can't immediately predict what you would do at the death moment. So you can't plan. We can't plan our death. So that is the one property or one characteristic of the death. So you can't plan it. You don't know at which moment it would happen and in which way it will happen. and how you are going to go through it, and on which day it will happen. It can happen either in say 10 years ahead, or 1 year ahead, or 1 week ahead, or 1 moment ahead. So uncertain. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't die now. Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So that's why, So that's why I asked you to, ask your loved one to be away. Don't come closer to me, because if they are coming and start to spoil the situation, because it's a very tricky point. Kind of a very crucial point, no. So you can't correct it. If it happened, gone. So it's a very crucial moment, very critical moment. So if someone come and play some nonsense, then you will be in trouble. The one going to die be in trouble. So therefore, Paritta chanting and all such things are all right, because it will give some kind of a peaceful environment, and the person's mind will be in a peaceful state because of such chanting like this. But if the person going to die has some previous skills as meditation skills and all, he can come back to himself or herself, just looking at the mind and being mindful, and mindfully he can die. So if one can die mindfully, definitely Buddha says the next birth will be in a good state. So because typically what happens is the mind gets frightened, either because of the death pains and the kind of you are attached to so many things that you have to leave aside. So if the attachment is so strong, then you get panicked. But if someone is fairly prepared for that, if you have already given up, not too much attachments, if you have already prepared your mind, then you can fairly peacefully die. So actually it is necessary to prepare ourselves to die also, because you can't do that at the death moment. So you have to, in a way, sometimes teachers are telling this meditation is a practice to help you to die, or to prepare to die peacefully. Because now we are giving priority to the mind. Now in meditation, it is true that we are going through observing sensations and the pains and all these things. But ultimate results is certain skills are developed in the mind, right? So that in the death moment, the body will already become really weak, and ultimately it can't support. What you have is only the mind. So if the mind is well strengthened, well cultivated, developed, then that becomes the rescue, that becomes the refuge, because body going to die anyway. Suppose there's an accident happened, and the body is now going through the last spell, going to the last breath. So at that time you can't get any help from the body. So you simply have to depend on the mind, skills of the mind. So in the meditation we are giving more prominence to the mind, and we are developing skills to the mind. So therefore these developments will definitely help. So let go before you die. Yes.
The last question is also similar. Kindly explain Chutti-Siddha. How can one maintain a very clear mind at the time of death?
I think we answered the question. So Chutti-Siddha, everything. So you can't do it at the. So suppose you are going to die tomorrow, so you can't do it today. So if you try to do it, say 10 years ago, fine, can. So like that, because we don't know, as we said, the future about death moment. So more and more we are being mindful, more and more we are being skillful. then more and more we feel that we are ready to death. And again, that's why on the other hand, death contemplation helps us in different ways to develop our mind. Death contemplation, Marananusati. Because when you understand you are going to die, so you will again feel that there may be so much attachments. Anyway, at the death moment, you have to let go everything. So you are not strongly holding any of the things. It does not mean that you are neglecting the responsibilities or whatever things. You do your best, but still not strongly holding. Ultimately, anyway, you have to give up, either willfully or forcefully. So better therefore maintain kind of an attitude, you are doing your best but not strongly holding, not grasping. So that you can't do immediately. So that is the development of the meditation, that is the development of the mindfulness. More and more you are being mindful through the vipassana mostly, that you start to maintain kind of an unattached mind. Anistitocha vihadati nachakinchi loke upadeti. There you are maintaining kind of an independent mind, which is not struggling for anything, which is not grasping anything, not strongly holding anything, but still it has some inner happiness. Still it has some kind of a, say, stillness, kind of a serenity. So I mean, more and because our mind, or if we simply say ourselves, get distracted or get bound or kind of panicked because of the attachments, because of the strongly holding either views. It may be certain views, or we may be strongly holding certain people, or strongly holding certain objects. So these are the issues. So if we slowly start practicing, so we may be in a position to maintain relationship but still having some distance, not taking it too much personally, but going through based on the cause and effect. So different points, I mean different way we can describe this situation. Anyway, rather than trying to understand the death moment, better to live in the present moment. Yes. So that's all the written questions. Yes. If you have any question related to your practice, or if you like to discuss any other Dhamma related matter, so yes, please you can come to the mic. You can come to the mic.
No, I'm just commenting that Anapanasati itself can be considered as in a way Marananusati.
You can use that. You can use in a way to develop vipassana. So aniccanupasse asatisamiti sikkati. Then viraganupasse asatisamiti sikkati. Nirodhanupasse asatisamiti sikkati. Patinissagganupasse asatisamiti sikkati. So these are the sort of say Dhammanupassana section where you are using mind in this breath meditation in an extreme vipassana point of view. So because you see the very impermanence of the breath, you see the very transient nature of the breath, and again you have some kind of a dispassionate quality towards the breath. You are not holding it, and again you see the cessation side of it. It's coming and going, and you see more prominence is given to the cessation side, the going away side, passing away side. And again, you are, if well developed, you are able to even let go of this and maintain your attention in the cessation, in the what you call the sort of emptiness. So these are, I mean, definitely Anapanasati can be used in Vipassana. Yes.
Marananusati, some people might find it getting panicky or depressed or something like that, but with Anapanasati it doesn't happen.
Can. So actually any of the Vipassana object will give some idea about the death. Because arising and passing away, the passing away is the death actually. So we may be talking about the final death moment, But constantly we are going through death. So, our perception is that we are all living, and say after 10 years I will die. So assume, just for a easy understanding, so I am all right now. Suppose now I am old, 60, and on 70 I may die, something like that. So, but according to the Dhamma, constantly we are dying. So we can't understand this constant rising and passing away. So through the meditation, through vipassana, what we understand is this constant or momentary death. So we are postponing, or we don't look at this momentary death, and we are postponing the death to future, assuming it will happen in the future. But constantly we are rising and passing away. In the, say for example, if you look at the mind, so say when you are coming here, you may be watching various things. Now all that thoughts gone, they have all passed away. Now you are hearing certain things, and before 10 minutes you heard something, all gone. So this hearing consciousness, the content all gone. And now you are hearing something, and the one word you heard, gone. And now a new word coming. So constantly this hearing consciousness rising and passing away. Same thing to the body also. In the mind I am just explaining, but body also the same. There are various causes condition in the body. What you have eaten today, and the environmental conditions, the karma, and various such conditions are there, conditioning the body process, causing the bodily processes, and that is also constantly changing. And we are here today, but say 20-30 years ago, we may be either as children or youth or something like that. So constantly our bodies are changing, but we can't feel it, or we either don't feel it, or we are ignorant about that change. So we think that I am the one 10 years ago, I am the one 20 years ago, now also I am the same person, another 10 years ahead I am the same person. So this is a wrong perception. But constantly, momentarily we are rising and passing away. Momentarily body is arising and passing away. Momentarily mind is arising and passing away. So this is what we basically observe in vipassana when you are, say for example, you are watching pain, for example. Suppose your mind is well concentrated to that pain, that very pain. And suppose your mind is not in the past, not in the future, and it is not looking at the mind, rather just the pain. Assume such a situation. Your mind is well concentrated about the pain, and that very pain is arising and passing away. So that's what you are observing is the arising of some kind of a bodily phenomena, some kind of a mental phenomena, and passing away of the same phenomena. So that's why constantly this body and the mind arising and passing. So we can't perceive that. So we think that we are living. So it's true in a way, conventionally it is true that we all are living, and I am say so and so many years old, like that we are telling it. But at the same time we should know that it's for the convention. It is for the communication that we all have different names, birth certificate, and all these things are conventionally we need it. But it's for the conventional purposes. But in the ultimate sense, we all are sort of processes going on, and we can't understand that. So through meditation, we in a way, it helps us to kind of reveal that process, opens up that process. So the delusion in our mind, thinking that this body is I am, this mind is I am, this feeling is I am. So all these are the delusions we have, sakkaya ditthi, in the mind we have typically, and the meditation, vipassana help us to penetrate this delusion. Would you like to continue something?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Your analysis is very useful.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other question? No question. So many are interested about the death moment. So you can actually use that as a urge for the present moment practice. That's what Buddha is telling. I mean, when you are contemplating about death, so it gives us some understanding, some kind of urgency to practice. Because we don't know how long we will live. Right now we are healthy and we are in a better position to practice. And therefore this death contemplation helps us to have this urgency.
I think that is because our focus on Ati and Ati.
Yes. Now some young fellows are also here today. Yes.
This is the experience I got it last month.
Yes.
I went to donate blood. And I was standing there for 3 hours to donate my blood. And once it was like after 3 minutes, I felt like I was going to faint.
You are going to faint?
Yes. I was on the bed. And then I told the nurse that I'm like almost going to like kind of faint. And then she got panicked.
Right.
Actually, I thought like, I just remembered the meditation that I have been practicing. So I was like observing the body at that moment. And then suddenly like I went into a bag like a thing. It was like kind of closed. Slowly like all the noises stopped. I mean, I didn't hear the noises. It was like I was in a bag and I was like locked up in. And then I don't know how long I've been staying there. And then while I was coming the same way, I started hearing the noises. It was like all mixed up. And then suddenly like kind of different noises started. And then there were 2 doctors and some one sister also. And the sisters, and they were like shouting at me like...
don't die.
But they were telling like for me to breathe faster.
Right.
But still I was very calm. I thought, okay, no, I will just do the normal way. They were like putting my legs up. So like I actually like it happened twice to me on the same time. So they got like really panicked and finally they had to give me saline.
Fortunately, they didn't give you blood, no?
But like, it was a very good experience to me. Like at that moment, how my kind of the mind, like everything went inside and how it came. I really observed that. So just wanted to share, like because at that moment I remembered my 2 kids, but I thought no way. But
you see that you remembered 2 kids.
I remember. And then again at the same time I thought, now even if I remember, it's no point. If I have to go, I will go.
Yes.
So that I remember,
mainly
due to the practice that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Just wanted to share this.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So that's, I mean, you are fortunate that you didn't die, and that's one thing. And again, you are able to remember 2 kids, and again come back to the present moment at least. But typically, I mean, suppose someone who has a strong attachment towards some loved one, and again the loved one may be close to the same person and trying to hold her or him, and he has to die. I mean, reluctantly has to die. So in such situation, the mind starts to kind of panic, starts to kind of become kind of aversive about the going through situation, because we don't like to accept this kind of situation because we feel like not reasonable, because there are people loving me and now I have to let go this life and have to completely let go the whole thing and go. So we presume like it is not reasonable, you can't justify it, anyway you have to die, something like that. And again, when you are telling this story, remember a very beautiful story happened during the Second World War. many of you might have heard that one little kid was sort of injured, and that little kid has to be given blood. So then someone came to that classroom and asking, is there anyone ready to donate blood? So nobody was ready to donate blood, but slowly one kid starts to raise his hand. And then the nurse and the others took him and start to get blood. And at the beginning he is like to start like crying or something, little panic, and then he let go. And again later the doctors and the nurses have, or the teacher or whoever has asked, why you at the beginning you didn't immediately raise the hand, after you observe the situation that slowly you raise your hand, and again when the others are drawing blood, so you little at the beginning you have some resistance, later you give up, like you allowed it. What's the situation? Why did you do like that? And what he has told is that I thought he or she is my friend, I have to die because we are drawing the blood. So he has given up the life and given the blood. He didn't understand, the little kid didn't understand this drawing blood is a temporary process and he will recover from that. But anyway, he has given up his life and donated the blood. So it's a beautiful something has happened in Japan. So in a little classroom I have read this story somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it is. So anyway, I mean, these are little experiences. Sometimes you have to let go. So in a kind of because we have nothing to do, it is out of our control. So at that time the only way is to just let go. So that is letting go is something that we have to spiritually develop. So you can't develop such skill at the deathbed. So when someone is dying, or that you are dying, or whatever thing, so if your mind is ready to let go, then you can be peaceful about the process. Otherwise we struggle unnecessarily. And again I can remember Bhante Dhammajiva is telling that most of the cancer patients, at the beginning they resist to accept that they have a cancer. They might feel that the doctor has mistaken, or the reports are wrong, or they have sort of mixed up someone else's report with your thing, and you are not ready to accept. You have some resistance towards the biopsies, right? What you call? Yeah. But later there are more evidences telling that you have something. Say for example, kind of terminal cancer, for example. So later you start to accept. So this very acceptance helps to recover also. So till you don't accept, till you resist, even the medicine does not work. So once you accept that you have cancer, okay, I just give up. Either if the medicine work for me, I am alright. If not, I am ready to die. If you have this kind of acceptance, then the medicine starts to work. So it's how, in a way, it is very beautiful how our mind helps us to recover. So understanding now I am going through some situation, I have only very little control, and I just give up. I just surrender. So this very surrendering helps us to recover. Yes. Someone else also like to share some words.
Venerable Bhante, now this mindfulness is very important, but the situation is when we are getting into panic, how do you maintain the mindfulness? Is it the practice that you do, or in a panic situation?
Yeah, actually, at that time you can't immediately develop it. So that's the situation. That's why typically we call mindfulness is a preventive measure, and it is not the other side. Prevention is better than cure. Okay, so you can't start to practice it, or you can't start to learn it once you are in a trouble, once you are in a panic situation. Before you get into a panic situation, you have to develop it. It's a preventive measure. So now all of are fairly alright. So now we can develop that skill. So once you have developed that skill, then you can apply that skill in a panic situation. So that is the advantage of it. So beforehand we have to practice, beforehand we have to develop. So once you have developed, so now say for example you are developing mindfulness, and even in a very early stages you might feel like, there are certain behavioral changes has happened in yourself. Say for example, you are used to immediately react to something. Say someone is used to blame you or kind of insult you. Typically, suppose you are very reactive, you immediately become angry. So with meditation, give some kind of a break, some kind of a shock absorbing sort of thing. So that's just a early advantage. But suppose there is someone who has fairly developed, so especially in Vipassana, how we develop? So what are the maturities that we are getting? So what are the maturities based on mainly the three characteristics. What you are seeing is the impermanent nature. What you see is the unsatisfactory nature, and what you see is the non-self nature. So these are extremely opposite to the typical grasping, typical way of thinking. Typically we like to hold kind of a strong view, okay, I am so and so. So my experience is this, my environment is this, my positions are this. They are strongly holding kind of a very permanent view. But through the meditation, these permanent views are, you can't hold. So what you are experiencing under your very understanding, under your very experience, is the impermanence. Constantly things are changing. So there should be an internal kind of perspective has to change. Otherwise, there is no real vipassana has happened or has developed in ourselves. And again, you may more and more you observe these processes, you see the unsatisfactory nature. You can't find a ongoing or lasting happiness either in the bodily process or in the mental process. And again, all these both processes are not in your control. Things are based on different conditions. On these conditions, I have no much control. So you start to accept it. It's the way it is. So you accept it. It is not kind of resistive acceptance, but it's true sort of experientially you accept it. So it is a kind of a maturity. So especially the vipassana, therefore helping us to have this maturity. So if when one is developing this vipassana, so he may not struggle as the others when things are changing, when things are unsatisfactory, and when things are not governable, things are not behaving as you wish. So you are ready to accept the change. So it has to happen before the panic situation. So that is why we have to practice when we are in good health, when we are in a good condition, we have to practice. Yeah. Okay, then we'll wind up the question and answer session. 2:45. So we'll have the Dhamma sermon at around 4:30. Yes. Thank you very much for active participation.